Hey guys, I am back with another video for you today. Today's video is going to be my review on the Lorac Pro 3 palette. Now, I haven't really heard anybody really talk about this palette, which I'm really surprised because when I seen that it was coming out, I got really excited because I love Lorac Pro palettes. I think they're amazing. I've never really got my hands on the Mega palettes, but the Pro palettes, I do own all three of them. So this is the third one right here. I kind of wanted just to go over with you on what it came in, what the packaging looks like. So we'll go over that first. So this is the packaging, and then inside of the actual box, you do get the palette, and then you also get the primer, which I believe all of these palettes come with the same exact thing, with the primer and then the palette. So that is what this comes with right here, and we will go in and compare all three palettes in just a minute, but I kind of wanted to discuss this really quickly with you guys. So inside the palette, and I will do close-ups of this as well, you do get 8 matte shades, and then you also get 8 shimmer shades as well. The price of this palette is $44. That's what I paid for mine at Ulta, and I think it's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. I had to get it because I really wanted to see what this is all about, especially when I seen the colors. I got really intrigued with all the colors, and I'll give you my final thoughts at the end of this video. But yeah, you can see that the packaging is a lot similar. It's exactly like the other two palettes that they came out with. It's really sleek. It's very easy to travel with. You get 8 shimmer and 8 mattes like I talked about. The only thing about this packaging I can say that I do not like is, if you are familiar with the Lorac Pro palettes, you will know that they come almost like that NARS packaging where they do get stained pretty quickly. So because of the feel of the packaging, anything that touches this is going to just leave a hot mess on. So that is the only thing I don't like, and you can see that this one's black. This is the first one, and then the second one is gray, and you could see that both of them do have really bad stains on them, and you can't get it off. So I'm really not that happy with the fact that they made this one into a cream color, because any kind of dark handprints or stains that you get on this palette is not going to be easy to clean off. It's going to look really dingy pretty quickly. So I'm not really happy about that, but the actual palette I am impressed with inside, and like I said, I'll give you my final thoughts on all of that in just a minute. So yeah, I do want to compare all three of them and kind of go over all the shades with you guys, and then I will also do swatches. So if you want to see all three palettes compared to each other, let's just get right into that. Alright, so here is the first palette right here, and I will put all the palettes side by side at the end of like this little review of each palette, but I just kind of wanted to go over with you individually each palette and what I like from each palette. So you can see that this palette right here has, again, 8 matte shades, and you got your 8 shimmer shades down on the bottom, which is really nice. I love that Lorac does that because they give you options. There's a lot of palettes that do come out that don't typically have your 8 matte shades or enough matte shades to build your color in the crease. I personally like to put matte shades in the crease, which is what I really like about these palettes. And some palettes just don't come with enough matte shades to be able to apply into the crease. And then again, you have your 8 shimmer shades down on the bottom that I really like. But you can see with this palette, the colors that I used the most. You can definitely tell that I have gotten some use out of this palette because it's really dingy. Again, the packaging, it's really hard to get any of the stains off of the palettes. But you can see that taupe is definitely my favorite color. I love putting this as a transition shade. And then I also use mauve and sable from this palette. And then down on the bottom, you can see that I don't really use the first 4 shades, but I definitely dipped into pewter quite a bit. And then I don't use the last 3 shades. So you can definitely see that I've only gotten use out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors out of the 16 shades that are in here. So for me personally, I do love this palette, but I just didn't find myself reaching for enough of the shades to be able to use this palette like I wanted to. So that is the first palette. Let's go into the second. Okay, so here is the second palette right here, and you can see that this palette is really cool. It has more cool tones in it as opposed to like my warms and neutrals that I'm used to. Again, you can see the packaging is gray, and it did stain up quite a bit. It's really hard to come out once it gets to that point. Now, the shades in this palette, you can see that I definitely reached for Mocha and Nectar quite a bit. When this palette first launched, I was really excited. I was really wanting to get my hands on this palette. However, after I purchased it, I really found that I did not use it as much as I wanted to. I really was hoping that I was gonna love this palette, and though I did, because I really love this color Mocha, I did love this palette. However, it just wasn't something that I grabbed for quite a bit. If I wanted to use Mocha and Nectar, I really wished that there was more of a deeper brown kind of color, like Sable, which is in this palette right here. This is Sable right here, and if I was to travel, these are the two palettes that I would take with me, just because I really loved Mocha, I loved Nectar, and then I loved to put Sable right in the crease just to deepen it up and add a little bit of definition. That's what I would do. But having to take both of these palettes with me to travel with was kind of like an inconvenience for me. I really don't like traveling with more than one palette. So when I would travel with these palettes, I would definitely have to take both of these palettes with me. I really wished that they would have put something like this in here, but they didn't. However, you can see that because of the very minimal shades I was able to use, I just didn't find myself reaching for either one of these palettes at all as much as I really would have liked to. So now we're gonna go into the third palette. All right, here is the third palette. How beautiful does this palette look right now? I know in a couple of weeks, once I start playing with this palette, it's not going to look like this at all, but I love the way it looks right now. Now this palette is extremely different from the first and second palette. Right off the bat, I know that I'm going to use more than 2 or 3 shades out of this palette. I love that this palette has a Blanc type color in here, which is going to be great for right underneath my brow. It has a Cool Taupe, which is that's the color. It's called Cool Taupe, and it has this is a great transition color, as well as Pink Nude and Clay. Those are all 3 really great transition colors. Now, I definitely will find myself reaching for the first 4 colors in this palette quite a bit. And then we go into Clay, which is a very beautiful, again, transition color, but it's definitely going to be able to be that color that you can build up in your crease. It also has a terracotta color and a dark brown, which again is really necessary when selecting a palette. I love this palette, guys. This palette's amazing. So you can definitely see that I will be using the entire top row. So all 8 colors I will be using, because I also will be using jet black as well, because I do like to create kind of like an evening look, and I'll throw some black in the crease just to create like a really nice, soft, subtle, smoky eye. So you can definitely see that this palette I'm going to get a lot of use out of. The bottom row right here, these shimmer shades, the 8 shimmer shades in this palette are beautiful, guys. You have a light gold, almond pearl, and I'll do swatches of all of these. You have medallion, light pewter, amethyst, rose bronze. You have dark mocha, and then you have truffle down at the end. Beautiful colors, and I definitely will be using all of these colors right here. Like these 5 colors are going to be my go-to colors. So you're definitely going to get more use out of this palette. This is the palette that I wish they would have come out with in the beginning. It would have been great to have come out with this palette, because I know that this palette is going to be my go-to palette for several looks. It's also going to be my go-to palette for traveling. This is definitely going to be something that I'm going to take with me for my work trip next week, and it's also going to be something I'm going to be taking with me to Cabo. This is all I need, guys. This is an amazing palette. So I am going to place all 3 palettes together just to kind of give you guys an overview of all 3 palettes, so you guys can kind of get an idea of, you know, the palette that you would pick out most if you were shopping for these palettes. If you don't have these palettes, I definitely recommend getting the third one. I don't really see myself grabbing for 1 and 2, but that's just my personal opinion. But I'll put them all 3 side by side so you guys can definitely see them compared together. Alright guys, so here are all the palettes placed together. I hope that this is a good angle for you. I know it's probably not the best angle, but you can see the first one, the second one, and the third one. And in my opinion, I really do love the third one. I just think it's something that I'm going to get a lot of use out. Like I said, I only used 5 colors in this palette. I really only used 2 to 3 out of this one, and you can definitely see going over my last review on the third palette that I will definitely be getting use out of the entire top row, as well as at least 5 shades from the bottom row. So I am really pleased with this specific palette right here. I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing. I think if you don't own any of these palettes, I really, really recommend getting the third one. I would skip on the first and the second. That's just my opinion, but I really, really think that you should get the third one if you don't own any of these palettes. So let's go into some swatches. All right, so now we're going to go into the swatches part of this palette right here. So here is the palette. You guys just seen the palette up close and personal. Again, the top has matte shades and the bottom row has shimmer shades. We are going to go through the top shades first. But first I do want to quickly mention, if you guys are familiar with the Lorac Pro palettes, you guys know that these eyeshadows are very chalky. The consistency of them are very chalky. They're not like that of maybe a Makeup Geek eyeshadow or an Urban Decay palette or anything like that. They are very soft and chalky. If that is something you do not like, I would definitely pass on this palette. For me, I own 2 of the palettes already and I do like them. I think the pigmentation is great. I do definitely think that you do have to build these particular shadows up, but they do wear very well. So with that being said, let's jump right into the swatches of this palette. Now I will have close-ups of all of these, but I will also run through them with you as well. So the top one is going to be Blanc, and this is a very white kind of yellowy shade. It's more of a banana color, I would say. It's definitely a color that I am going to be wearing underneath my brow bone. I think that's great that they put a color like that in this palette, because in the other 2 I really didn't have an option to have an eyeshadow that was going to work well underneath my brow bone. I always had to take my Urban Decay ABC gum, I believe that's the color of it. I would always have to take that separately next to the palette that I was carrying with me. So I love that they put a color like this in here because I can definitely really use this color. Alright, next is the color called Canvas. This is a very beautiful color. Again, it's that of like maybe like a kind of like really, really nude color, and I think this is going to be great to put all over the brow, right underneath the brow bone and all over the lid after you place your primer onto your eyelid and then go in with your transition shades. I think that's a great color, especially for my skin tone. I think that's a really great color to do that with. Next we have Cool Taupe. Now this color right here is definitely not a color that's going to show up on me. As you can see in the swatch, it's definitely not going to show up on me at all, but it is definitely a color that I know that I can build into the crease if I wanted to. So I think that Cool Taupe is going to be a great transition shade for me to just kind of dust it in with a larger fluff brush and then kind of go in and kind of deepen it up a little bit with maybe like a stiffer brush, like a MAC 214 or something like that. I think that's the name. 217? 214? 217? I think it's a MAC 217 brush. And then there is Pink Nude. Now this is more of like a peachy kind of pink color. Again, this is something that's not going to show up on me at all, but I will use it as more of a transition shade if I wanted to go in with these 2. So I would place this one in the crease, and then I would place this one to kind of deepen it up a little bit. So Pink Nude is a very, very beautiful color. I think somebody with more fair skin would get a lot of use out of this as more of a transition shade because it is a beautiful color. But again, it's not going to show up that well on my skin tone. Alright, Clay, again, is a beautiful color. It's more of like a deeper kind of peach color. It's beautiful. With that being said, again, this color is not going to show up on my skin tone. I think if you're really fair, this is going to be gorgeous on you, especially if you use just this in your crease with maybe like rose bronze. That is going to be gorgeous on you. But this is definitely a color that I can build up and work with maybe dark brown. I can kind of put the clay color in the crease and then add a little bit of dark brown to add a little bit of definition and mix the 2 together, and I'll get my perfect shade. Alright, next we have Terracotta, which is that of a beautiful kind of mustardy brown tone. It's almost like, I don't even know how to describe it. I think Makeup Geek has a color, it's called Chickadee. It's very much like that one. It's more of like a deeper kind of red undertone color. Not so much though, but it's beautiful. I think this color is going to be gorgeous with maybe dark mocha and dark brown. Dark mocha maybe all over the lid and dark brown in the crease together with terracotta. I think those are going to be gorgeous. Again, I think I'm going to get a ton of use out of this. And then next we have dark brown, which is just your typical dark brown. I did find that when I swatched this, it had more of like a grayish undertone, but I could totally be wrong. But I think it has more of a gray undertone. But again, I really, really like this color. It's definitely a color that I can build up in my crease and wear really dark, or just apply it just ever so lightly to get that very subtle brown look, just to deepen it up just a little bit. And then we have jet black. Now looking at this swatch, you can see that it is very chalky. This is definitely the color where you're gonna see the chalkiness of these particular shadows come into play. They're not as pigmented, like the colors are not as rich, so you definitely have to build these up. But like I said, I don't mind that with these palettes. I think that these palettes wear really well when it comes to the eyeshadows. So again, that is jet black. All right, moving on to the bottom row, which is all the shimmer shades. These are really fun. First we have light gold, which on me, this is definitely something that I'm not gonna wear. You can see that on my skin tone, it looks very white, almost like a white frost on my skin tone. So that is something that I'll probably just use like in the inner corner or something, maybe very lightly, but I probably won't find myself reaching for this color too much. And then we have Almond Pearl, which again is probably a color that I'm probably just going to place in the inner corners of my eyes, but maybe not use so much. But it is a very beautiful color. I think that if you have very fair skin, this color is going to look gorgeous on you, just because it's going to be something that you can probably place all over the lid and probably add like pink nude in the crease, and it's just going to look beautiful. Like that's all you need to do with just a little bit of mascara, and I think that'll work perfect. All right, over to Medallion. Now, when I swatched this color, you can definitely see there's a lot of chunky glitter coming out of this particular color right here. So I definitely do think that Medallion is a beautiful color. It's great. It's almost like that of like a rosy kind of gold bronze color. It's beautiful, but I don't like the chunkiness of this particular eyeshadow. Sorry. Oh my god, I'm losing my voice. I definitely will wear this more if I was to wet my brush and kind of pack the color onto my lid and then get that really beautiful color that I want, but I would not wear this like just applying it to my lid, because there is tons of fallout and it will just get all over the place and it will not adhere to the lid like I would like it to. So Medallion, very chunky when it comes to this color. All right, next is light pewter. This is a beautiful color. I really like this color. I definitely think that this is a color that I would personally wear all over my lid with just a little bit of clay and a little bit of pink nude. It would look gorgeous, like just a very soft, simple eye. That would look really pretty. Almost like that no makeup look. That would be gorgeous. I love light pewter. All right, next we have Amethyst, which I think is just a gorgeous color. When I like to wear a little bit of color, I definitely like to go for my purples, my mauves, my deep plums. I love colors like that. So this color is right up my alley. I would definitely wear this all over the lid with a little bit of rose bronze and a little bit of clay and dark brown in the crease. I think that would just be a gorgeous look. So Amethyst is definitely a color I'm going to be dipping into quite a bit. All right, next is Rose Bronze, which I am a big fan of. I love this color. I definitely would just wear this all over my lid with just a little bit of maybe pink nude and clay right in the crease. Again, it's just a very soft, simple eye. I think that anybody can pull this color off. It's gorgeous. I think it's amazing, and I'm definitely going to be reaching for that one quite a bit. And then my next favorite is going to be Dark Mocha. This color is stunning, guys. I think it's just a beautiful, perfect kind of bronzy rose deep shade, and I don't think I own anything like this, so I am definitely going to be using this quite a bit with clay and dark brown. Oh, beautiful. And then next we have Truffle. Now Truffle is a little confusing to me. I'm not sure if this is more of like a grayish or like a brownish color, or it has both colors mixed into it, but when I swatched it, I almost seen a little bit of purple undertones in there as well. So I'm not sure. This is definitely a color that I probably won't reach for in the palette quite as often, but maybe I would, just to like kind of deepen up the crease if I didn't want to go full with the jet black color. So that is the complete overview of the palette. And now if you want to hear my final thoughts, then just keep watching. All right, guys. So, final thoughts on the Lorac Pro 3 palette. I'm definitely a fan of this palette. I really do love this palette. I did mention at the beginning of this video that I'm not a big fan of the packaging. I just think that this palette's gonna get really dingy really quickly. Like, I know that once I start dipping into this palette, it is going to be a hot mess. I really wish that they would have made this palette in a different color, but I'm not complaining because inside the actual palette is amazing. Like, I love this palette. Compared to the first and the second one, this is definitely going to be the palette that I'm going to be reaching for all the time. Like, this is going to be like probably one of my go-to palettes. So overall, my opinion on this particular palette is I definitely would purchase this one over the first and second one. If you guys do not own any of them and you guys are looking to get a palette, I think that this is a great beginner's palette. I think that this is something that's great if you've been looking for a palette that maybe you do want to travel with, or just a go-to palette and you don't want to pick so many palettes up that have maybe this shade that I like out of this palette, or maybe I have this shade in this palette that I like, and you have to combine all these palettes together. I definitely think that this is going to be a perfect go-to palette. So if you are one that doesn't really have any makeup and you're looking to buy an eyeshadow palette and you really want something that's going to be convenient for you to, 1, travel with, 2, just grab and go, 3, just overall have this palette, I think that this is a great palette for you. I definitely wish that they would have come out with something like this in the beginning, because I definitely wouldn't have purchased the first and the second one. This is all I probably would need, especially if you are a beginner. Like I said, I think that this is a great palette, or if you're somebody that just likes to dabble in makeup, have tons of palettes, but definitely need that go-to palette. Oh, this is it right here. So here is a quick look at the palette. I think it's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. You can definitely see I'm going to get a lot of use out of this palette. And if you guys want to see a makeup look with this palette, leave it in the comments down below, because I would love to do that for you guys. But yes, my overall thoughts on this palette is I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait to start playing with it. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will answer them for you. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. And until next time, I will see y'all soon. Bye.